Hello everyone. Today I'm going to present the last type of text that we're going to see this year, that is abstracts, right? And this could be also the last type of text you will have to write for me. You will have to write an abstract from your mini research project. Right, what is an abstract? Something very simple, a summary. How long? Between 300 words and 500. So it's very short, it's like a paragraph, mini paragraph. What are the functions? The basic ones of any academic text. First, to transmit knowledge. Second, to promote advances in science, right? Linguistics in our case, or literature. And finally, and very, very important, you will see that abstracts are done for that. They create and construct a reputation of the scientist or researcher who does the paper, right? Very, very important, these three functions. Then, as we said, what is intentionality? Those functions deal with the intentionality. Uh, the main one is that it has to arise the interest. Why? Because abstracts are normally placed at the beginning of research papers and also are used for researchers to decide which article to read. If you are not interested, sorry, if you're not interested by reading the abstract, you are not going to read the whole research paper. So this is the most important function, right? To persuade the reader to read the full paper. Right. As regards types of abstracts, we have two main types. We have the informative, results driven, and indicative or argumentative. The informative is very easy because we are used to that. It follows the IMRD model. So we have the introduction, the methodology, and results, and the discussion. And these four parts are integrated in the three sections of the typical macrostructure of a paragraph. So the theme would be the introduction, where we talk about the topic. The rim will summarize the methodology and the results of the project. And finally, the last line of the paragraph, the thesis statement, could be a summary of the discussion of the paper. So in a way, what we do is to summarize our paper and the main sections moves of our paper in the moves of the paragraph, right? Whereas we have another one that is the indicative or argumentative. This one follows what we call the CARS model. The CARS model is a model that was created by Swales in order to help students to write the introduction of research papers. The CARS model has different sections or moves, and the most important are that at the beginning of an introduction, you have to establish the territory and you have to talk about the topic of your research paper. Then you have to establish a gap or something that has not been studied. Then you have to justify why this is interesting. And then at the end of the introduction of the paper, what you do is you present your research questions, your hypotheses, and maybe you summarize your methods and your objectives, right? And you make a summary of the structure of your paper. But you never define your results because you have not yet done the research. It's just the introduction. So the abstracts that are indicative are the typical abstracts that we send for conferences when the research is not finished and we don't know the results yet. That's why what we do is a summary of the introduction of our paper and we don't do a summary of the whole paper. Right? This model is also used for articles that are reviews. Right? If you remember, we distinguished between the IRMD article and the review article. The review article was most focused on arguments for and against an idea that try to solve a hypothesis. When we have an article like that, we use also an indicative abstract because we don't have results as such. We have a conclusion of the argumentation that we carried out, right? So that's not introduced either in the abstract. So two types of abstracts. The informative, it's a summary of an IMRD model, and indicative is just a summary of the introduction of a research paper. All right, so this would be an example of an abstract, as I told you, just a paragraph, and this could be the macro structure, the typical macro structure of a paragraph. The theme, the topic, the reme, what is said about the topic, and the closure, that is the thesis statement. In abstracts, we are going to have thesis statement all the time, right? So it's important that you remember that. In this particular case, right, if we try to define the microstructure, we'll have something like this. The first sentence, right, this is a sentence, it's a complex sentence, but it's a sentence, as the theme, the topic. In this case, this article is talking about the relationship between lexis and grammar, right? And it says that there's a very complex relationship, right? And that is based on these syntactic patterns that sometimes are favored or dispreferred, right? Then the reme talks about, right, the modern learner dictionaries. That would be like the corpus of their study, and the theory that is going to be used to analyze these differences and relationships between lexis and grammar. And this is a corpus investigation of the lexis and only on the initial sentences of newspaper reports, right? So we know by reading this reme, what is the methodology that has been followed to get the results. And at the end, we show the naturalness in text is not just a product of the choice of collocations and grammatical pattern, but depends with equal force on the choice of lexis, primed from the appropriate textual position. If you see, those are the results, the conclusions of the article. So if we take back a look at that, this is an informative abstract because we have a summary of the topic, a summary of the methodology, and then a summary of the results and the discussion. So it follows the structure of a typical IMRD article. The following example, again we do the same thing. We try to place the theme, the reme and the thesis statement, the three parts, the three moves of a paragraph. And here we see that they are talking about a genre analytic approach, right? And that the communicative purpose has been used as a criterion. So we're talking about theories, right? Then we have the reme starts with a however, and says or explains other type of theories, the genre theory that is more complex, right? And this communicative purpose has become more complex, right? And then there have been some developments that were larger noticed, etc., etc. So we are talking here about ideas and counter-arguments to the previous topic. And finally, the thesis statement, we say, we discuss this paradox, we illustrate the difficulties that can arise, and then we suggest a procedure. If you see, the closure, it's outlining the process that is going to be followed to get some results, but we don't have the results yet. We just have an outline of the process. So this is an indicative abstract. We don't have results yet. We only have a summary of what is going to be done in the article. So we have there two examples, one of an informative abstract and another of an indicative abstract. Now it will be your turn, right? How will you write the abstract of your mini research paper? The first thing that you have to ask yourself is if your mini research paper is an IRMD or a review. And then you'll have some points to determine if you're going to write an informative or an indicative abstract. And then don't forget that any time when we write a text, those texts have to follow the macro structure that is typical of that particular genre. If it is an abstract that is informative, you will have a particular macro structure, and if it is an indicative one, you will have a particular macro structure. Then you also have to comply with the textuality conditions, coherence, cohesion, progressivity, and closure. And you shouldn't forget that it's also important to pay attention to the microstructure, to the choice of vocabulary, syntax, the argumentative strategies, the rhetorical features, and the non-verbal features, everything that is, conforming what we call a text, right? So, more ideas. This is maybe can help you, right? As regards coherence, remember, coherence has to do with the topic development. So we have to be sure that all the topics are related, topics and subtopics are related, right? So the theme would be the main topic, and then the other parts would be related to that, right? That's why the paper, and the idea of the paper is repeated throughout the macro structure. And then the final comments and value have also to have some relationship with the main topic. So that's the most important thing as regards coherence. We're talking about the same idea or theme. What about cohesion? Remember that for having a good cohesion, we have to have enough repetition. We have to use the ictics, textual synonyms, repetition of semantic threats. We have to use cohesive devices. We have to maintain the same kind of tenses. So we have to be careful with all those things. What about progressivity? Right. In order to have good progressivity in a paragraph, we have to take a look to the sentences that form that paragraph and be sure that anytime we have some old information, there will be the repetitions, right, of the previous ideas, and then we have to add new information. This new information that we're adding in every sentence will conform the progressivity of the text. If we are not adding anything new, it's not worth it to continue writing or adding more sentences to any kind of text. And finally, closure. Closure obviously would depend, the type of closure would depend on the type of abstract you select, right? It could be a summary, or it could be highlighting the main ideas, right? You can create an arresting ending, or maybe give your personal opinion. Those are the typical functions of a closure. In abstracts, what is very, very important is that you arouse the interest of the reader. And finally, microstructure. What key issues are interesting to remark? Right. Remember that you have to use some academic vocabulary, right? Typical expressions that are academic and not related to the specific topic that we are talking, and then some vocabulary related to the specific topic, right? Normally we avoid negative loading language. Everything is very, very positive because you want to persuade the reader to continue reading, right? Maybe the exception is when we talk about the past research or when we are establishing the niche in which we can be negative towards the previous studies that have been conducted. About the paralinguistic features, nothing very special, no photographs, no colors, maybe a bold type or italic. And then remember that a paragraph is maximum 10 lines long. Okay, so it's a very short type. What about tenses? Remember that we said that for cohesion it's very important to maintain the tenses. We use normally present or past, right? No, both of them, right? Or either we're talking present time, historic present, or we're talking past, right? We can also use future, right? At the end, in the conclusion, if we want to talk about future developments of our theory. The syntax should be complex, right? If you remember the first topic that we have, the topic sentence that we have seen, it's like 2 lines long, okay? And simple structures are for maybe getting attention. We should avoid the personal references, but sometimes we use these this we that includes the researcher and the reader. Remember that in linguistics or literature, we don't use the I, okay, the first person singular, whereas in science they use it more. We use passives because in abstracts the content on the topic is more important than the person or the researcher that does it. In fact, we can use some personification with research, right? Research suggests it's not the researcher, but the research who suggests something. And then there's an absence of connectors. We don't use many connectors. It's only a paragraph. So maybe one main connector. If you remember in one of the examples we had, however, that's not very, very common. Only one connector. It could be academic, like nevertheless, notwithstanding, with only like one. Normally we use other cohesive devices like the ictics, repetitions, and things like that. What is very, very important is the use of connectors when we are using a contrast or a concessive structure, because we want to make a clear distinction between our research and maybe previous studies, for example, or when we are defining the gap, saying that this is completely different to what has been done. In that case, obviously we will need a concessive or we will need a contrast connector. So as regards microstructure, that's more or less the thing. You can also use some metaphors or so, but remember that this is not a literary text, okay? A couple of things only. Right, so what tips can I give you? Obviously, you have already done your paper. That's the most important thing. So you have to review the original article and try to make a draft, like a summary, right? And remember, don't copy and paste from the original. It has to be something different. Also, it's important that you pinpoint the key concepts, right? And that you would select 5 keywords that really could be like, summarizing the topic. For example, if you have been using the internet, a corpus, then these 2 words, internet and corpus, should be selected. Why is that so? Because remember that one of the purpose was to create reputation and to promote the article. We promote the article nowadays on the internet by using keywords. Those keywords are very important and it should be introduced in your abstract, right? Then when we have a clear idea what we are going to talk about, right, we can write our introductory sentence. That would be our theme. Then we write the body. Remember, it could be like the description of the methodology, the results, or if it is an indicative paragraph, we will talk about, or we summarize the arguments and the theories and the gap and the justification. Then the keywords. We said that we have selected 5 keywords that summarize the main topics, subtopics, of our paper. So we have to embed those keywords right into the first 20 words of the body. That's very important because the browsers on the internet will look for those keywords, and then we will reveal your article to other researchers easily if you make this thought of including these 20 words in your abstract. Right? Then we arrive to the thesis statement. We write 1 or 2 sentences, and remember that it's very, very important that somehow we try to persuade the reader to continue reading our paper, right? Because the abstract is the presentation of our paper. At the end, as we do or in any text, we edit and revise. The abstract, right? We elicit any unnecessary words, right? We reduce things if it is necessary, okay? And if you let pass a day or two, that will be excellent. Right. Final tips and warnings. Remember, we have to embed the keywords into the first 20 words of our abstract, okay? As I said, this is a matter for the internet search engines, so our article could be placed in a very prominent place. We have to emphasize the information of the author, especially in literature and linguistics. We never introduce new information. All the information has to be based on what we have done in our paper. It has to be short, no more than 500 words, right? And then we have to make sure that it sounds natural and is reviewed. Finally, the last slides of the presentation are just 10 sentences that you can use for your abstract that are typically used, and they are very academic and maybe are interesting for you, right? Like this paper presents the article. You will see all of them have the paper as the subject, never the researcher. Okay, right. I'm sorry for moving the camera up and down. Much attention is paid to the following conclusions. The paper looks, it gives a detailed analysis, it draws our attention. Drawing, okay? That's an academic verb. The article is of great help too, the article is of interest too. All right? Okay, so I hope those tips could help you with this last task in the in this academic year, right? So keep calm, and if you need me or you have any doubt, don't hesitate to contact me. And at the end, you have some bibliography from which I have extracted this theory about how to write an abstract, and also the definition of the two types of paragraphs of abstracts if you are interested in reading more about the topic. Okay, all right, good luck, and we keep in touch. Bye bye.